1992, I was 16 and working at a grocery store. Our store closed at 9 p.m. It was after 8 p.m. when this random dude, probably a little older than me, walked through the sliding doors, walked right up to one of the cash registers, and just started pressing all of the buttons on it. He was smiling and kind of laughing while he did. I was on the register next to that one. I heard all the buttons he was pressing. I looked over and sort of laughed, saying, "What are you doing?" He didn't answer me and kept pressing buttons in a comically, almost exaggerated way, really trying to make anything happen with the register. He was laughing, and honestly, I can't tell you why, but I was laughing pretty hard. Then my assistant manager, a woman a lot older than me, walked up front and spotted him. She looked over at me while I was laughing, and she asked him, "What are you doing?" And she was more serious about it. I switched my gaze back to the guy, and he was now panicking, pressing the buttons to the register more frantically. He wasn't laughing anymore. Then he looked over at the assistant manager, then to me. Right when we made eye contact, he pulled out his gun. He walked closer to me, told me to open the register. The gun was so much closer now. I realized it wasn't a joke. He was seriously trying to rob the store, and that was a real gun. I didn't react because I was taking it all in, but my assistant manager walked over, ushered him over to his original register, the one he'd been playing on. She told him to please lower his gun. She said other stuff too, but I focused on that, really hoping he would. He didn't. Instead, he pointed the gun at her. While she was trying to get the register open, he was saying very hateful things to her, telling her, "Hurry up, bitch, open the damn drawer," pressing the gun into the back of her skull. She got it open. He took out the money, but then started coming to my register. He was again pointing the gun at me. I just stood there. He told me to open the drawer, and so I did. I just stood there while he was taking the money out. He didn't say anything else to me, though, but he pressed the gun against my back with force. Once he had the money, he walked away, and I shut the drawer. He focused his attention back on the assistant manager, and again was erratic and mean, yelling, "Where's the safe, you stupid bitch?" Things like that, hitting her. She told him she couldn't open it until the morning, and he told her that she was going to figure out a way, and continued with the obscenities. He acted like he despised her. He'd raise his voice so loud, wanting her to say one thing out of line so he could shoot her. He kept saying as much. Anything that she said would make him so mad. He got the money out of the 2 registers and even eventually from the safe in the office. While they were in the back, I reached for the phone and dialed 911. I was so scared that he was going to see me. I refused to hold the receiver to my head. As soon as I vaguely heard someone pick up, I started speaking, facing away from the office as best as I could. I told the operator the name of the store, the address. I told them I couldn't pick up the phone to talk, but to please send the police, that we were being robbed at gunpoint. I told them I had to hang up the phone, but I repeated to please send the police, that there was an armed man, just one, with a gun, robbing the store. Then I hung up and hoped for the best. Mere moments later, he was done in the office and the 2 of them walked back toward the registers. He changed his loud, threatening voice to a sarcastic tone, telling us, "Now y'all have a nice night." And he turned to the assistant manager and said, "But fuck you, bitch," and ran out of the sliding doors. The assistant manager's face turned red. She was hysterical and crying. Her entire body was shaking. She told me to call the cops, and I told her that I did while handing her some water and some tissues from my station. Once the police arrived, she was telling them what happened, very upset and crying, so they took a break from her, and then the cops came up to me, asking my side of the story. I told them everything. One cop asked if I was okay. I said yes. He said he was shocked at how calm I was for my age. I told him that the guy didn't really seem to have a problem with me, nor did he show any anger towards me. His rage was directed towards my assistant manager, so I wasn't in that much fear, except maybe for her life. I told him they needed to check back with her, that I was worried about how she was feeling having her life threatened over and over. I explained again how he focused on her, how he wanted her to do something wrong so he could shoot her. This was a long time ago, but he got away with it and was never caught. I got stabbed for talking shit to a junkie that fell into my car when I was driving home from work. In an attempt at an insurance claim, he leapt off the sidewalk into the street and then onto the hood of my car. I was only driving about 2 miles per hour tops because I was making a right-hand turn. I even watched him start walking all fast as I was pulling up. He already had me thinking that he was going to do something dope fiendish on my approach. I made sure my doors were locked before even making the stop. I turn, he jumps and lands on the car, then proceeds to crawl up and roll onto my windshield, cracking it in the process. His stunt didn't shock me like he thought it would. It didn't even surprise me. I was just pissed. So pissed that I didn't use my better judgment. Before I even thought, I should call the police to report this, I was outside of my car in a tirade, telling him to get the fuck off the car. He rolled off onto the ground, dramatically finishing his accident beneath the beams of my headlights. When he didn't respond, I had a moment to think, and that's when I thought to pull my phone out and start to call 911. I glanced down to dial, and in that time, he'd whooshed up from the ground and grabbed me by the collar of my shirt. He looked possessed. Just before 911 connected to the speakers of my car, I felt him jab me in the stomach twice. Then he threw me to the ground before running around my car and down the block he'd originally been coming from. I'm relieved to see him run away, but when I get off the ground, there's a pool of blood where I was, and then I feel a sting. I look down, and blood is still pouring from my lower abdomen, and another spot in my upper abdomen. When he was hitting me, I didn't see anything was in his hands. There's a lot of blood on the ground and on me, still coming out of me at a steady rate too. I tried to hold the wounds closed by pressing my left arm and the hand over them when I got into the car. The 911 operator is still on the speakers, asking if anyone's on the other line with her. I answered yes, and I told her what had just happened. She asks where I am. I don't know. I'm too woozy to get back out and see a street sign. I should know where I am, but I'm too woozy. The operator started asking me other questions about my condition, but I could barely focus. My energy was depleting fast. I interrupted the operator, told her that I'm going to drive myself to the hospital. She asks me to reconsider, telling me that dispatch was on the way. They've narrowed down my approximate location. They'll be in the neighborhood shortly. With how I was feeling, I decided to risk it, try to make it as far as I could rather than risking them not finding me at all. The hospital was near the freeway that I'd just exited. Turning the wheel is when I really felt the tears in my skin. It felt like there was stretching every time I moved the wheel. The pain was unbearable, and I was almost passing out more from that than the blood loss. That's a different kind of pass out, I found. You squeeze your eyes until a white ball starts filling your vision. You have to open your eyes and really get a grip on yourself not to fall in. Then the extreme tiredness. Reasoning with myself that it's okay to close my eyes for a couple seconds. I'm fighting both urges and about to crash out, but then I see someone sitting in the passenger seat next to me. Later on, recalling these events, I believe I was hallucinating, because there was no possible way someone was in the car with me that night. But when I turned my head, there was clearly a woman sitting next to me. She was thin with long dark hair. wearing a long blue skirt and a knitted wool sweater. I'd never seen her before, but I was too weak to question how she got in my car. She was looking out the window, and I was unable to see her face. My glance was pained and quick before I had to focus my blurry vision on the road. The woman asked me, "Where are we going?" But I couldn't respond. By this point, each time I took a breath in or adjusted my body in any way, it sends a surging hot pain through all of my nerves. When I get to the emergency room, I barely have enough energy to turn the wheel into the lot. The wheels go onto the sidewalk and I can't readjust it. I let the car roll its way to the front doors, scraping the bottom of the car on the sidewalk. All I could do after was fall forward on the horn and hope the doctors came out to check on the disturbance. The scene I had made had already evoked attention before pressing the horn, so within seconds, doctors or nurses were banging on my window, telling me to unlock the doors. In my heart, it felt like a countdown clock. I kept repeating in my head, "Move your arm, move your arm." There's a ringing in my ears, and the last thing I can make out audibly is the woman sitting next to me. I hear her say, "Oh." Then the sound of the doors unlocking. Right when the lock sound is heard, the doctors grabbed the door handle and pulled me out of the car. I was rushed into the operating room and apparently almost died while they were working on me. I woke up almost 2 days later in a hospital bed. My sister was with me. She was my emergency contact and my phone. Later, detectives arrived to take a statement. They were never able to find the man who assaulted me that night. I had over 35 stitches and several staples. My intestines or lower bowel were punctured, but everything else was intact. However, stomach surgery and recovery presented their own medical complications over the years. My life had for sure changed after that night. I'd lost the secure and safe feeling that I used to have and take for granted. But as a part of growing and moving forward, the experience has led me to accept that there will be scars I keep on the inside and out, that I will have to someday look in the mirror and believe in the reflection I see. Until that point, take it day by day. I'm lucky to have this opportunity to appreciate the world that I could have left.